I don't believe that we can't have creative ideas of our own, but you do have to acknowledge the extent of conditioning without being paranoid about it. You can look out there and see what's the influences more clearly, and you can look at yourself and see what internalization you've made, and then begin to take control of your own subconscious. I believe every person has that potential. Not that many people like you doing that. Too many empowered people is a problem for social control, and that tends to be what governments want: compliant populations. But we're not here to, I mean, we don't want to go off the point of therapy too much, other than to understand the nature of social influence. And you will have cults, which are specific groups of social conditioning, which are sometimes very dangerous and bizarre. You remember that we read about cults when they've gone astray, not really often. The Rockers, Jonestown, where the 900 committed suicide, Waco, Heaven's Gate, the Solar Temple, the crowd out in Japan, the Aum cult, I think they were, led off the sarin gas. You remember in the subway there in Tokyo, so many were killed. It's just a miracle, hundreds weren't killed. It's a very deadly gas that the Nazis developed. Even they didn't use it. And society at times becomes like a big cult. It becomes very cultist.
I think at the moment we've got coming from two very different angles, and it seems to sort of cover the right wingers and the left wingers on society. You've got the terrorism threat, and then you've got global warming and environmental issues on the other hand, and it seems to cover two different aspects, and it's control mechanisms to an extent. And you're almost out of order if you poo-poo any of the ideas there.
Yeah, it is hard to think outside of your conditioning for any individual in society at any time. Very few people can put their minds above their conditioning they've inherited. Think for yourself. All right, so and that's because many people are in their mind looking for authority to guide them. In the past, it was the king and country. Then we now look to the church. Religion was an authority, and now so-called democratic institutions are what we're taught to look up to, market forces. Any system which people become conditioned, the Chinese communists, the communism in Russia, the USSR, that dominated the lives of how many? 3 generations maybe? Went on a while, and then it all crumbles into the dust now. So all human systems have their strengths and weaknesses, and we are subject to influence and conditioning of those systems, and generally of people all around us from the day we're born. Okay, so our job as therapists is to learn to use conditioning in a creative and constructive manner for people, to decondition false beliefs, including even sometimes socially inherited beliefs. We talked about young girls who have all thought about the only way they're attractive is they've got bigger boobs or they're slimmer, size 0, or fashions in politics, fashions in music, fashions in clothes, and people seem to behave like sheep throughout history. Well, that's the kind of group hypnosis where you surrender your own individual thinking to the mindset of the group. And that's a very big form of hypnosis because it's kind of unquestioned. Yet when you look back and you can laugh at it, at what people believed 100 years ago. Look at 100 years back and where we are now and think, why do we accept those views? Who do we listen to? Who's creating? What you do learn from that is, well, how many people sit around deciding your future? Who are the people? Why do the politicians talk to the psychoanalysts and say, we understand the problem, we have the solution? Who gave them that right? To convince the politicians, and the politicians to listen to them and say, all right, yeah, your ideas are okay, are the right ones, so we'll listen to what you have.
It was convenient for them.
It was convenient. It suited them, of course. They were conning each other to some extent.
Yeah, because they also became rich.
The whole got rich. Some other poor schmuck pays the price.
And how to filter the propaganda, all the media, is there for instance here in the UK an independent body that evaluates the propaganda that we're being fed.
You must be joking.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be such a thing almost allowed. It's very hard. You have to do, you just have, for many people, it's a question just getting more in touch with yourself, deciding on what your own needs, goals need to be. And there are things in the public propaganda that may be valuable. I mean, things you learn from your parents that are useful, certain morals, values. There's a lot of stuff, a lot of baggage we inherit that we don't even question. It's absolute nonsense. Okay, and that has a lot of resonance for group psychology. And we mentioned earlier about the influence of the group. You know, when you are born in the ghetto and you think that's the level I'll reach economically, educationally,